Good afternoon, everyone. We come to you with breaking news on the air right now. We have an explosion in an Ontario neighborhood that you're looking at right now. We have Josh Kuzo up in News Chopper for Alpha to fill us in on what's happening here. Josh?
Hey, Kim, now there's a lot of information to cover, but the scene we're showing you right here is a horse that was actually stuck in the middle of this fire. You said explosion basically led to a fire on this whole city block here. We're just zoomed in really close watching this specific instance where this horse is stuck between a tree and a wall. You see firefighters there in the middle of your screen through the smoke there trying to break down that stone wall. Now, we were headed to this scene about 30 minutes ago. We could see the smoke all the way from Pacoima in the San Fernando Valley there. When we got on scene, we saw that. I'll zoom out and give you a little look here. That this about a block here with fire. We saw the fire on the property. Now we believe that the address here is about 445 Maple, again in Ontario, and witnesses on the scene reported hearing explosions, so possibly fireworks involved, and maybe we heard from San Bernardino County Sheriff helicopter, maybe some live ammunition in this location as well. So a lot of factors here for firefighters to look out for, but we were just keeping an eye on that horse, and it looks like the team of firefighters on the ground there were able to free that horse. This property looks like it has a couple horses. We saw that one, and then somewhere in this yard we had seen another one. But thankfully that one was free to roam and not near some of this direct flame. But a lot of direct flame here, we saw at least 2 or 3 structures on fire here. So a developing scene that's been going on for about an hour here in Ontario. And that's about the latest that we have. I'll send it back down to you, Kim.
Yeah, and Josh, we see some of those horses, like you said, one of them free there, one of them working to get out. So a lot of smoke coming from this area. We see a lot of those firefighters on the ground. You gave us that street of Maple. Can you also give us a cross street or kind of what we're looking at in terms of which neighborhood this is in here in Ontario?
So for cross streets, it's about Maple Street and Fern Avenue here in Maple. I couldn't tell you the neighborhood though, but again, just to cover that horse, you see the horse is thankfully free. We've been watching that for about 10 minutes, and unfortunately that horse had found itself stuck between, again, a concrete wall and sort of like a dead tree there with the fire all around it. And thankfully, firefighters able to find that horse, locate it, and then push the stone wall to create enough space for that horse to slip out. You see that team of firefighters right there. And again, this seems to be property with multiple horses, as I may have mentioned before. There's another horse at the bottom of your screen there. That's about all we can see. There's a lot of smoke on this scene here because we've had a lot of property burn. We believe it may have started in one property, and again, witnesses saying explosion happened, and that's when it had caught fire. We had seen fireworks going off earlier when we got on scene about 15 minutes ago. We had saw fireworks bursting in basically every direction that we had pointed the camera. We had seen 1 or 2 go off, but again, we first got on scene. This building was almost entirely engulfed in flames, but the ground crew there with the hose, thankfully working that, and then you see, I think the ladder crew there, possibly the battalion, they're just getting water into that. A lot of ground lines here, a lot of trucks getting as much water into this location as possible. We had only seen black smoke coming over here, meaning really big flame, a lot of material burning, but now thankfully seeing a lot of that black smoke turning to white smoke as they're getting water onto this and extinguishing a lot of the active fire on this scene.
All right, and we do want to show you some moments that were taped just moments ago here because Josh was talking about the kind of fight to get those horses out of here. We see some of them who are now free, but if you look at your screen, we do have moments ago with that horse. They were working so hard. Look at that guy stuck in there. They're trying to pull down and break down that wall like Josh was mentioning with all that smoke just pouring in. They're shaking that wall in order to free that horse who obviously must have been so scared when all of this was going on. So you can see the firefighters kind of swarming in there. Thankfully, that horse is free now, but we do see several of them on the property. Josh, can you kind of remind us, we are looking at a live picture of one that's free there, surrounded by the firefighters. How many do we have out there in that area?
So far, I've only seen 2. Again, the one that we mentioned that was stuck, and then this brown one there in the center of your screen. But with all of the smoke sort of swirling around, it's hard to get an exact count. But so far, we only have 2. But it looks like there's a couple yards or backyard areas here with dedicated to horses. So we see this here with a stable, possibly 2 rooms in that stable there for horses. So There could be more. We're seeing a lot of Area 4 horses around this scene, but so far I've only been able to actually see 2 horses still here.
Okay. And we do see the firefighters just putting those hoses with lots of spraying on that smoke that's all still kind of coming from this area. We did get a lot of calls to the newsroom with people reporting some booms, hearing those big loud noises out there. And like you said, Josh, maybe possible initial reports of fireworks or even live ammunition that could have been in maybe one of those houses there.
Yeah, and with some of the wind we're getting here, sometimes it could just kick it up. You see that smoke just carrying to the left. When we had first got on scene, we saw multiple fireworks going off at different areas of this fire. So it's unclear where exactly the fireworks are stored in this location, but we had seen them from this side and we had seen them from the north side as well while we were filming the horses. But again, just to zoom in here and show you some of the ground crews we have working this fire, getting as much water onto it as they can. Seeing a lot of white smoke here. We have seen this house with fire pouring out of the window. You can see there fire pouring out of the eaves underneath the ceiling, but now you can see the ground crews getting in a lot of water from the side, getting in that hose line too from the top. And then there's other properties there to the left that are sort of covered in the white smoke. We had seen active fire in those areas as well. Some of the trees in this area too we had seen, but firefighters starting to get the upper hand here. You can see going right into some of the places that we had seen on fire. The firefighters going right into there with the ground line, getting as much water into the base of this as possible, taking a lot of the temperature out, getting out the tree fires there to cut down on any spot fires we could get if an ember had kicked off the tree. They're doing a great job of protecting the surrounding structures here, sort of almost taking an offensive position here into the backyards to cut down on any spotting with the spot fires or any sort of other incident fires. But again, there's so much property, there's so many trees back here, a lot of flammable objects for the firefighters to deal with and try and extinguish. So we're seeing them clearing out the area basically section by section with the ground lines there, putting water very accurately where they need to cut down on any fire spread.
Yeah, and it looks like they're getting a good control of it. Like you said, we do see a lot of that smoke that's kind of coming now from the ground, some of those certain areas. We see some of those fire crews that are kind of having to go in there because it looks like there's lots of wood and maybe some shed that they're working on that some of that fire can get trapped under and then get to those trees and spread. But it looks like they have a pretty good containment of this whole area, even though they are working with several backyards, Josh.
Yeah, that's right. As I said, going through each of these backyards here, and like you said, a lot of material to deal with. We just saw these firefighters here working with what looks to be a collapsed shed. So lots of material to bury that fire, to sort of insulate its temperature and to keep it burning there, and a lot of difficult terrain for the firefighters to deal with, but getting as much water into it as possible, sort of getting in there with the either sledgehammers or axes to pry apart some of that material and get the water underneath to the ground, to the base layer of that fire to take the temperature out. But let's pan over and we'll show you some of the more properties that we've been dealing with. So again, this is the one I've been referring to, and now you can see some fire breaking through the roof. This building has been a bit more tenacious, but they've had about 4 or 5 different water lines on it. This must have been one of the first buildings to go up because this was on fire when we first got here. They sort of got a control of it, but now just because of how widespread the fire was when we first seen it, the firefighters just getting in as much water as they can, but the fire is still breaking through and finding a lot of oxygen there and a lot of material to burn through. But with the white smoke, that's about the only building right now we'll be able to show you with fire, but we'll rotate around this to give you a little bit of a look from the south. We've been showing it to you from the west side, I believe, but you're seeing a lot of water here, like I said, from the truck there on the street, getting in water at a distance to put it to extinguish some of that fire, and then the ground crews that we had seen. Now the ground crews either focusing water on that building or sort of walking around in the yards like we talked about, getting as much water as they can onto just the material in the backyards that is holding some of the fire and sort of insulating that heat. So they're just going to get the ground crew there like we're about to see here and just take out some of the specific flare-ups to get as much temperature out as they can.
And we do want to show that cell phone video that popped up just a moment ago, Josh, when you were talking here, because obviously this rattled the neighborhood, and we did see some folks that are posting here. This video just came from Twitter. This is from Garrett, and we can see that big black plume of smoke when this initially just started. So you can imagine everyone ran outside to see exactly what this was. Heard that big boom, an explosion, then we saw the flames spreading, so that big black plume of smoke. Again, this is near Maple and Fern in Ontario. That's where the explosion happened. We're looking at the possibility. We have Mike Powell, looks like. He lives in the neighborhood. He's on the phone with us. So again, a lot of people heard some of those noises. We want to bring Mike in right now and ask Mike, did you hear anything out there? What are you seeing from your location there in the neighborhood? Mike, do we have you on the phone? We're hoping to talk to Mike Powell. He lives here in this neighborhood again, Fern and Maple, where this house explosion happened. And you are looking at the big plumes of smoke just moments ago there. You can see on your screen rising up into the sky. A lot of people reported hearing those booms, possibly from fireworks, maybe live ammunition that was in this area in a home here in Ontario, and then it kind of spread from there, all of those flames going. We watched some of the horses that were stuck in some backyards, so we do have a live look at the scene from News Chopper 4 Alpha with Josh as he's been monitoring this for us. A lot of that white smoke that we're seeing now, which is a little bit of that good news, Josh, as we've been looking at kind of the containment that they've gotten here. And at this point, we have not heard of any injuries. Do you see any paramedics or anything out there, Josh, or anything that would indicate that anyone might have been hurt in this?
We have a number of agencies on the scene here. I have no indication of any injuries, but a number of ambulances on the scene. We have local police on the scene, as well as a lot of different fire departments here working in cooperation. A lot of emergency vehicles. I can count at least 3 ambulances, or maybe 4, but we didn't see any ambulances get on scene, load up, and then leave, thankfully. So no confirmed injuries on our end here that we were able to see. But like you had said about the smoke, thankfully we're getting on scene. A lot of black smoke that we had seen is now turning into white smoke as they work their way into this fire from all different sides and try and contain it to what almost looks like just this building now where the active fire is, because we're not seeing much smoke from the exterior properties here, some of the backyards that we were keeping an eye on. And like you can see in the top of your screen there, anything that we are seeing in the property, we have there's basically a firefighter crew there with a ground line just working it and getting the active fire out there, basically going all the way around it and then working their way in to just contain the fire at this house and then get as much water on it as they can to take the heat out. But I'd like to zoom out and show you some of the area. We had said this property here, and you can see a lot of debris too, either debris caused by the fire or the firefighters or the water. So you're seeing where some of this fire had gotten to. We saw a lot of fire coming out of what I believe is a stable here, and that fire may have compromised the integrity of that structure and knocked that down right there where you're seeing the firefighter getting water onto it. There was a lot of fire there when we first got on scene. But that looks like a stable, but thankfully we didn't see any horses in that location. Again, we had just seen the 2 horses at this part right here, about these 2, the white one and the brown one you can see there. And thankfully they look to be okay. They're standing up and walking.
Yeah, that
just
is
sort of
good
keeping
news.
their distance from the fire. Yes, yeah,
Josh,
definitely
thank you
good
so
news.
much. We're going to actually bring in NBC4's Tony Shin, our reporter there out in the IE. He's now on the scene, and we do want to say that NBC is we've just confirmed here they're investigating this now. ATF is looking into this explosion. So again, a lot to work out here, but Tony Shin is on the phone. And Tony, give us an idea where you are and what you're seeing in this neighborhood.
Hey there, what I'm seeing is the smoke dissipating right now. I'm probably about a block away from where these explosions, if you will, these fireworks, that's how people are went off suddenly I would say about 45 minutes ago. As I was driving from Riverside, heading to the scene as quickly and safely as possible, I can tell you that it looked like a huge plume of smoke from the Riverside area, but as I was getting closer and closer, the smoke was starting to dissipate. It looks like the firefighters out here, once again, doing a fantastic job of what they do. They've really knocked down this fire from what I can see. I'm out here. There are a lot of people out here just waiting, kind of watching and wondering. These are, I'm assuming, are all residents. This avenue, sorry if I'm out of breath. I had to walk a few blocks.
Yeah, no, take your time, Tony. And while you're talking here, we do want to let you know, you're looking at video on your screen. We have live with News Chopper 4 Alpha on one side, but then this cell phone video that we're showing here on your screen, you can actually see what looks like those fireworks or some of those things igniting into the air, and then that plume of smoke. So a lot of people did report, Tony, hearing that noise that sounded like fireworks. We're still looking into exactly what this is. ATF is responding. They will be investigating to get to the cause of this, but I'm sure it likely rattled a lot of folks there out in that neighborhood, and now seeing all of this smoke and all the action that's coming after.
Absolutely. And just before I came on air, I had a long conversation with a young woman named Emily. She was carrying one of her 6 dogs. She was with family members. They lived right next door to this home. She described in detail to me exactly what she felt, what she heard, what she saw. She said at first she thought it was an earthquake because the whole home, her home, just rattled. And then she kept hearing what sounded, she described as bullets, sounding like fireworks, if you will, going off, shooting one after another, after another, after another. She described it as like being 4th of July. She says that at that point, she looked out her window and she could see that there was busted glass. Her door was broken. She and her family members immediately got up. Her mom twisted her ankle, running away from the scene in fear, and they were able to get out of here. At that point, she said it was the fireworks were just, she's describing it as fireworks, were just going off and off and off, and they just got away from this location as quickly as possible. Firefighters got to the scene very quickly. I said, hey, do you know if anybody was injured in this? As far as you know, she goes, well, just her mom sprained her ankle. She thinks she twisted it. But otherwise, she doesn't know if anybody was in that particular home where this all happened. But she will say that she doesn't know those people very well. But every 4th of July, and this is her telling me, she says that they have a huge fireworks celebration there. And she always wondered why they would do that, because she says here in the city of Ontario, fireworks are illegal, but every 4th of July they would go off with these fireworks pretty much all night. But she never thought that they had such a potential stockpile here in this home. Once again, Emily's okay. Her dogs are okay, except for one. She's missing one dog at this point, so she's kind of looking everywhere she can as far as she can go. But all the roads around here are blocked off by tape, because police officers obviously and firefighters don't want anyone near this home, because potentially there could be more explosives there. We just don't know.
Yeah, they got to keep it safe there, Tony. Thank you so much. We're going to have you stay on the phone with us, Tony. Catch your breath. Talk to some more of those neighbors who have those stories, because right now we do want to bring in Mike Howell. He is actually a resident there in this neighborhood where this explosion happened. Mike, do we have you on the phone?
Yeah, hi, hello.
Hi, how are you? How are you doing? What did you hear out there?
Well, actually, I was asleep. I was night shift, and I was in bed, and initially we thought it was an earthquake. So I kind of just laid there for a minute, waiting for like another shock to happen. And then I got up and walked outside, and I saw a plume of smoke. And then my aunt and I were standing outside, and then we saw there was an initial explosion, and then a second explosion. With a bunch of flashing, I believe it looked like fireworks going off. And we came back inside, and then I walked back outside maybe like 5 minutes later, and then the last big explosion went off, the one that you guys are showing on the news now. And it was, I mean, we felt it. You could just feel it. And my house bucked up to the 60 by Philadelphia and Euclid. And, I mean, it was a pretty good, we felt, our house shook. You could feel it.
Wow. We're so glad you guys are safe there too, Mark. So just give me an idea of what you saw, because we're showing some video right now on our screen. We're getting cell phone video that's coming in, and what honestly looks like some of those lighting projectiles, what you might think would look like fireworks. We're still trying to determine if that's what it was, but what did you see when you walked outside?
Yeah,